What a beautiful day we got today here. The sun's finally breaking. If you guys have know anything from San Diego, we're in May gray right now. So when you get to see the sun, it's still a blessing. I know we pay all this money for the sunshine tax and we still don't get any sunshine. It's like June before we get it. I have a special guest here. Him and I have not had a chance to connect much. In the last 2 hours, we've had so many good conversations. We're going to repeat some of the conversations. We're going to get into some more of them. But he is just OCD as intense as I am. So I want to introduce Louis DeSantis here, and we're going to have some fun today.
I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to being here. Appreciate the hospitality.
Yeah, no. So right off the bat, very similar. I have Integrated Sciences, 27 employees. We do about $6 million a year, and you are at 22 employees at a sign shop, Illuminated.
Correct.
Okay, and we'll get all the we'll get his website, everything for you guys down in the show notes. I want you guys to see all that. And you guys are working out of how much square footage right now?
So we share the building with the sister company there that has about a 13,000 square foot building, but we currently have about 3,000 square foot of that, and we outgrew it years ago.
I don't even want to do the math here. 3,000 divided by 22. Everybody's got an 8x8?
I mean, if you talk to the people in the office, they are definitely feeling like they're crammed in like sardines. I mean, I appreciate them working with me for a little bit, but it was what was needed, you know? I mean, just 5 years ago, we had 7-8 employees. We had an office person, one fab guy, a couple installers, and my father-in-law. And now we have permitting specialists, project coordinators, director of fabrication, superintendent. And then we have, you know, shop full of fab guys now. We've added crews, we've added trucks. So we're doing what we're supposed to do, outgrowing the space, and now we're busting at the seams looking for something new.
Oh, you are a huge success story. Bought the company 5 years ago from the family and said, all right, let's pedal to the metal. Let's see how far we can go. To go from 8 to 22 employees inside of 5 years is a feat. I don't care who you are, any business. I don't care what business you are. That is, you're doing something right.
Sure.
So bravo on that one.
Thank you.
One of the first questions I had, you know, we're just leaving the airport, and I asked this question right off the bat, what's your goal? You know, because everybody always has a goal. Where you want to plateau at? And you said,
that is, I mean, if you talk to my wife, that's a constant conversation that we have about where it's going to end. And I want to see how big this thing can get, honestly. So the end game, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I see us continuing to grow and get bigger and bigger. And as long as I have the team with me and the people are on board and believe in what I believe, I think that we can make this thing very special.
Yeah, you're going to be massive. If you keep that persona out, you're going to be massive. It's going to be fun to watch this. Yeah. So growing from 5 to 22, you had to have had growth pains.
Yeah, we did.
Give me some examples. What was the growth pain there?
You know, one of the first things when I first came on board, we were old school sign company, like a lot across the country, paper and pencil. That's what we were. We had an office person, you know, and what I wanted to do was make careers out of the people that were tenured, that were there, but then also can continue to grow in a capacity to where we could handle it, but then, you know, get even bigger and bigger. Some of the growing pains we had, I mean, fortunately and unfortunately for my employees, right from the start, we made changes, and we constantly make changes every year. We're pretty fluid as a company. And so it was getting over those humps right away, going from the old school of paper and pencil. I mean, one of the first things that we did was we had a whiteboard that could go 2 weeks out for installs. And we implemented just a simple calendar system. And getting people to understand that we're going to constantly change as a company and do these new techniques and procedures was a little bit of a process at first. Just the simple calendar system alone, it was, all right, we're scheduling stuff out right now. New jobs come in. I'd go talk to the project coordinator. Did you put that on the calendar? I didn't get to it yet. All right, well, I'm just going to sit here until you put it on the calendar and then it'll be on the calendar. So it took a little bit of that at first to get people to understand we're going to do things differently. Just because they were done a certain way doesn't mean they're the right way or the best way. Yeah. We're going to do things differently. So, you know, bringing on new systems, new operations, and then it was really resetting and hiring good people. And that was from the start, trying to hire good people. And those are the growing pains that I think a lot of companies are going to see is getting the right people in the right spots.
You know, it's funny. You talk about the culture and the right people in the right spots. I remember watching, who's the Virgin CEO, Richard Branson?
Yeah.
Okay. Before watching him, and he goes, protect your employees at all costs. If a customer comes up and starts yelling and complaining, make sure you protect the employee, not the customer. And I thought at first, I'm like, this is kind of backwards thinking. You want the customer to be nice and whatnot. And he goes, no, you're with your employees every single day. That customer's going to be gone in about 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
and in protecting employees. And so from that, I kind of sat there and went, okay, how important is the culture of a company? Let's beat this drum, even though I don't believe it. I will be very honest with you. In 2005, I was beating the drum of culture, and I didn't believe what I was preaching. And now, it's a lifeblood.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. I know a lot of people, they go into situations, go into companies. A lot of people run their companies of earn my trust.
Mm-hmm.
I try to go to the reverse. I'm going to give you 100% of my trust right away. And it's just up to you to keep it. Because I feel like the mentality that you're starting with, if you're going with, you got to earn my trust. Well, now I'm starting at 0. If I get up to 5 or 10 and I make a mistake, well, now I'm back down to 5. Well, let's just go the opposite end. I'm going to give you 100% of my trust. So if you make a mistake or two, now you're at 90, 95. You're still passing. You're still doing good. And so let's get it back up to 100 again. And I feel that allows people to be a little bit more loose, work a little bit harder, not feel like they're walking on eggshells. And have I gotten burned in the past? Yeah, sure. It's gonna happen. But I feel you have a better mentality.
Yeah, I think you've done better in the long run than for the short battles.
It allowed people to trust me right away. I feel, I had some people that were with us 10 years at the time, 8 years at the time, 5 years. And I was just someone, I was not born into this industry like some, but I was definitely made for this industry. So
I was born into it.
And so I was fortunate enough, one of the first things that happened when I started was my father-in-law put me on a truck with Wayne Gwynn, who's now my director of fabrication and design. We had to drive to Craig, which was 6 hours one way, 6 hours back. And all I did was talk the whole time and just ask him questions. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Because I knew coming into this new industry and coming into a company where you have to take over for someone who founded it, I needed to retain certain pillars within that company and have them believe me and trust in me to have the mindset that I wanted them to have and understand the vision of what I wanted the company to become. And I think we're definitely going down that path right now. So it's getting those people to buy in and understand what they want, where they want to go. And that was one of the things where we started creating superintendent, director of fabrication, project coordinators, because I wanted them to have careers, not jobs.
Mm.
And so getting them to buy in right away and understand where I wanted this company to go was a huge proponent for us right from the start.
So I love that statement, careers versus jobs, because I feel everybody and their mother just has jobs. Yeah. If you look at resumes, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. And by the time in this industry, by the time you've actually educated them enough for them to be fruitful, they're moving on based on that 2-year history. Yeah. Do you bring up career versus job in your interviews?
I do. I bring up a lot of things in our interviews. I'm pretty candid, pretty quick to the point. I'm honest to a fault. At times, I want people to understand what they're getting into, that this is a blue collar job, but you're going to be in a white collar world some of the times. Mm-hmm. But I tell them right from the start, what we want to do here is I want this to be a place that you want to work at, not that you have to work at.
Yeah.
And
that's a good way to say
I feel like getting them to have careers and understand that this industry has a vast amount of careers. You just got to discover what they are. And a lot of people that are with me now, with how much we've grown, listen, I know we're going to need new positions 5, 10 years down the road. I don't know what they're going to be, but help me figure out what we're going to need to have. And if we got to create a new position that doesn't even exist yet, whether it's here or in the industry, well, let's make it. Let's make it something special. I want people to want to be at our company and want to be happy, because I feel like in the end, giving them that trust, making them proud to have a career with us and be a part of something that is growing the way we are, that's just going to give me more investment and give me more satisfaction in the end running this company.
Now, when you're working with your team and working with all that, you treat everybody exactly the same, right?
Yeah. I can be a little bit more open with some of my employees that have been there for a while. We are not a normal company, and maybe even not a normal signed company at that. We are we have a vast amount of backgrounds. We are a band of misfits at times that are somehow successful. But, I do treat certain employees a certain way that have earned that right. But it also means if I'm going to be a little bit more open with them and I'm going to rely on them a little bit more, I am going to be harder at times, or not even harder, just my standards and expectations of who they are and what they can achieve. Even if they don't see it, I expect them to operate and work at such a high level. Now, if you ask my director of fab, I maybe ask a lot of everyone, but it's also because I have extremely high expectations. I know that they are so much capable of doing even more than they do.
So we're going on 2 chances. I want to grab one before I go back to them, because I love what your head's at on this one. I will tell you right now, I don't treat anybody the same. Not one person. Some person works off negativity. Some person works off positivity. Some person, I just got to say one sentence to, and then a week from now, it's going to go off in their head. They're going to get it, and they got to just wait for that ticking time bomb to take off. And it's so funny. As a leader, you're a psychologist in a lot of ways, just to make sure that you're getting through to that person the most effective way possible, because we don't have all the hours in the day. We really don't. There's just so much time in a day, and we've got to nail the big points across. But at the same time, you got to have enough time for the personality of each individual. So it always cracks me up. I always laugh at the PCF. Treat everybody the same. Well, you will have a horrible run company. Absolutely horribly run if you do it that way.
Well, it's one of those things that people get treated in a certain way for, who they are and what they are, and also what they can take. It's like we discussed, like with my brother and I are extremely close, but extremely different. And it was when I hired my brother, I thought I was hiring myself. And that took some time for me to adjust that my brother has different motivations. He has different ways that you can talk to him to get him motivated. I'm the type of guy, get in my face, yell at me. I'm going to get motivated and push and prove you wrong. My brother's completely opposite, and his way works. But it was me adjusting as a boss of learning, how do I motivate this person that is my sibling, but significantly different than who I am, and what motivates me in the end to get me fired up to do something.
That was hands down the hardest lesson I ever learned in life. Hands down, that not everybody works like I work. That I couldn't fathom, wrap my brain around in my late 20s, my early 30s. I'm not gonna lie, I was a cranky individual. I really was. I was just a mad individual because I couldn't understand why people would only put in a 4-hour day but get paid for 8. Then they weren't doing a full 8 for 8. You're like, you're here, let's move, let's get this done. And then I realized that, you and I are just a different breed. Let's just not lie. We are a different breed, and we have to recognize that and not expect everybody to run at our pace. That took me long. So I would say that was probably an 8-year lesson it took me.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing too. There shouldn't be more than one of me around. It's good. I don't know if that'd be good for everyone. It's good there's one of me. But it's getting people motivated in their own way and understanding how are they going to attack this day, and hopefully get some of the energy that I'm giving off. And everyone has their different motivational factors. And that's kind of one of the biggest things is the people. That's what businesses start with. That's what they end with, is the people. You got to understand what is going on at home. What are their dynamics? What do they want for their career? What do they want for the future? If they got significant others, if they have kids, everyone's is a true spectrum of what's going to motivate them in the end. And being a good boss is being able just to relate. Can you relate to that person? Can you talk to that person? But also, can you be someone that has high expectations of them and maybe raising their expectations of themselves? Because I think people are significantly capable of more than they even expect themselves.
I couldn't agree more with that one. I think everybody has a limit internally in their head of where they're at. And if they just get out of their own road, what they can truly accomplish is amazing. It really is. And there are some people that I'm willing to invest quite a bit of time to wake their eyes up, open their eyes, so to speak. And there's other times where I'm like, I'm going to give you about an hour. And if you don't get this, I'm sorry, but I got to move on here. And I feel bad for that. But at the same time, you got to pick and choose your battles.
No, I definitely agree. It's one of those things like we discussed, one of the things that they significantly lack when you go to, undergrad or even a master's degree is how do you handle the people? You can have all these perfect processes and procedures. We're going to do this. We're going to move this here. We're going to sell this way. We're going to talk to the customer about this. It all comes down to the people. If you don't have the right people doing what they can successfully do and getting the best out of them, it doesn't matter in the end. They don't teach you if you have someone going through a divorce, someone has their kids sick and their significant other sick. Oh, this one has to work a second job. This one just doesn't feel motivated that day. How are you going to get the best out of all of them in the end? And that's what's going to make a successful company and an unsuccessful company is, do you have the people?
And it's so funny. I would love to give the listeners a 1, 2, 3 punch list of how to handle those different scenarios. There's not. We could write the freaking Bible. It could be the Iliad, this thick, and it doesn't matter. You're still not going to find everything. You really have to bob and weave through it and feel when you can push, when you can, and see the look in those people's eyes. That is a learned trait that I'm sorry, you can't teach that. That's not a seminar. That's the rule of life that you get to learn on your own the hard way.
I mean, it's, how you're raised, where you grew up, how you grew up. And essentially in the end, it's trial and error.
It is.
It really is trial and error. You might think going into a meeting with someone that you got to have a hard conversation with. You have it all planned. If you're like me, probably have a million conversations with yourself. My wife can hear me downstairs talking to myself constantly.
I talk to myself all the time.
Oh yeah.
I'm in the bathroom brushing my teeth. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. This is how we want to do it. And I'm checking my tone in the mirror. I'm checking my facial features so they didn't read something wrong. All of a sudden I hear my fiance in the other room. She goes, are you talking to yourself again? I'm like, maybe.
I do it the same way. I try to go in as prepared to any conversation I have to have. I will respond as I'm the person that I'm talking to.
Yes.
Go through a significant amount of different ways that they would respond, how I would respond back.
Yes.
It just happened the other day. I was downstairs. My wife was upstairs talking to myself, prepping dinner. And she comes out. She's like, you talking to yourself again? I was like, well, yes.
I used to hide it in my 30s. Now I just own it. I'm just like, whatever.
Yes. I mean, that's what the car rides are for, right? I'm having those conversations constantly because I want to be prepared for anything that could possibly come up. I want to be prepared for that conversation and react immediately. You know, you got to let the conversation breathe a little bit, but I want to be prepared for any conversation I'm having, not just with a customer, but with my people, because those are the most important conversations I'm going to have any day.
I saw a thing on Instagram. This was like years ago. And it said, if you show up to the gym and you don't have your earbuds, and you don't have your pre-workout, you are a psychopath. And I seemed clear. And in my head, I've gone to the gym for years with no earbuds, no pre-workout. I'm just walking there. I'm like, this is my time to unwind and dissect all the conversations we're going to have for the next week.
That's what I'm doing. You know, I have the TV off. I have my cup of coffee while I'm working out, and I'm pretty much running through the day. If I have meetings that day or I got to talk to my employees about a certain project, I am running through that conversation thousands of times just so I can be prepared for any situation that comes up.
That's so true. God, that's true.
I mean, depending on who you talk to, it might not be the healthiest way to do it, but it's the most prepared way, at least to me. So.
It is to me too. It really is. The more I talk it through it, I mean, and I go the gamut. I'm like, they're nice as pie. How am I going to hit them softly? Oh, yeah. They're mean and cussing me out. How do I handle that in an appropriate manner? Okay, here's all the in between. Like 9 different ways we're going to go at this. And I'm like, okay, I think I got this squared away now that we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Completely agree, man. I'm right there with you 100% of the time.
I never thought we were going to talk about that because that's most of the time. Most people are like, I'm not sharing this. This is bullshit. I'm not sharing this at all. But it's true. It's what you do.
It's just constantly on my mind. I'd love to have those conversations because being prepared for those, you just feel so much more confident going in. Like, hey, any way this conversation goes, I know I'll be able to attack it any way possible.
Mm-hmm. As I've gotten older, and this is something that I want to touch on next, I'm going to segue into this. I don't know if I've lost the fire or I've just gotten wise in older age, but so you said we're about 10 years apart.
Okay.
So I'm 45.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I don't know if it's wiser or I've just lost the fire as much. Well, one of the two ways is I don't get as uppity as I used to.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me as much, no matter what happens. They go full spectrum one way or the other. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of saw that coming. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I just kind of ho-hum it and just keep moving on with my day.
Sure.
As before I get more fired up.
Yeah.
I know as a man, as we get older, we're supposed to be able to control our emotions at all times. And on the outside, I agree with that 100%. You must control yourself at all times. But on the inside, I could lose my shit. You know? And I don't lose my shit so much anymore. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of miss it.
Yeah.
I kind of miss it because I know there's a fire, there's a drive, there's something that's going along with it.
Yeah.
And I don't have it anymore. And I always sit here and I go, did I lose my drive? Is this what this looks like at the end?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I still get pretty fired up, but I try to reel it in when I can, try to understand where my employees are. It seems as if they're getting fired up. I try to be the calm one. And then maybe when it's not necessary, I'm getting fired up about something. So I'm very fortunate for them that they let me be who I am. And I think that that's what's great about the environment that we have, you know, at our company is that people are allowed to be who they are. And I'm a fired up guy. I get jacked up when we get good sales. You know, if something goes wrong, I'm usually the more calm one, or at least I hope I am at times of like, okay, how do we figure this out? Because in a good situation, I'm blaring music with my team. We're dancing through the office. We're getting jacked up about something good. But when something goes wrong, I know that I have to be the steady one because I know it can affect my superintendent, my director of fab, my project coordinators. I know how stressed they are because I know how important the projects are for them. So I try to as best as I can, be that steady one day, work us through the situation. All right. And then once we got to figure it out, we can have our moment after. But there's never been a job that we started that we never finished. Now that path might be different of how we get there than we initially planned, but 100% of the jobs we started, we finished. And so it's okay to get upset, or that path might look different than how we initially told the customer it would happen, but we're going to figure it out. So I feel like that's the times when I do have to reel it in. But I also know that that's one of the special things about what we have going on is that I can be that fiery guy because I know that that helps motivate my people. And I'm just fortunate that I get to be that way still, you know?
No, that's awesome. That's huge because I remember for a while there, we went through that real deep PC. Yeah. I know some companies still are doing that, and poor bastards. Yeah. Like that's just bad. Yeah. Yeah. But we do that PC, and I had to like curtail who I was as a person. And I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm excited. I get excited. I'm cranky. I'm like, come on, guys. You know, and I wear it because I don't want to hide it. I want to share it. I'm trying to share the happy way more than the negative, but still that excitement, that pizzazz. It's why I won't paint any of my buildings gray on the inside. Yeah. All the walls inside the buildings, when we walk through integrated signs, are blues and greens. Here's white on black, more of a neutral thing. So we got pops of color somewhere place, but I won't paint a wall gray because it just, you feel that negative energy and that when you die down. And it's the same with a negative attitude. You get that negative attitude and it spreads like a wildfire. Now everybody's cranky in your shop. Yeah. Oh, that's the worst days. You have to be able to recognize that from the start and turn it around. Mm-hmm. Even if you're cracking jokes on someone or even making fun of yourself, you have to change that energy right away. And that's one of the things that it's unfortunate at times. That sign industry, man, we're the Wild West. Yeah. You're going to have the older cranky guys. You're going to have the young guys that know nothing, and they're going to butt heads. And, you know,
I want to take a moment to talk about true champions that are helping the industry out, and that's Wendy Graves. You guys have all known her for Women in Science. She's been pushing that for quite some time, but she's also made a new alliance to help the industry out, and that's with Make It Happen Signage Academy here. I don't want to get this wrong here, so I'm going to read right from this, www.signage-academy/MIH-glance. That's the information. We're going to go ahead and put it at the bottom of the show notes here and on this clip, so you guys can click on it. She's going to be working with the Make It Happen Signage Academy for the Illuminated Signage Bootcamp, what's on the front lines, teaching project managers, sales, and everything in between. So definitely sign up for those things. Wendy's been doing some great work, so you definitely want to support her, and you're going to learn a lot.
The sign industry is a beautiful blend of white collar and blue collar. Mm-hmm. You're going to be dealing with the blue collar guys that are still doing the work. They're still out in the shop. They're still out in the field. I mean, they're going to come in. They could have a bad day just because they're mad at the air. They're mad at the heat. Mm-hmm. But then you're also going to have the white collar part where you're dealing with high level executives, high level situations and projects. So it's a fantastic blend, but it's one of those areas where you just have to kind of embrace what this industry is. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have those good times and those bad times, you know, but that's what I love about this industry the most is that it's one of the last PC industries. And I think that that's why we're pretty selective about who we hire too. Cause I tell people right off the bat, like, we are not PC and we are not trying to be, because the environment that we have is what makes us the way that we are, and that we are able to be successful because we can do the things that we're doing because of who we are. You don't have to hide like in just a white collar job where you got to put on a different face because you're talking to someone else. No, we're pretty original and we're pretty unique. And that's what, I mean, it's my band of misfits, man. I'm telling you.
You know, it's funny when you walk into an Apple store. I mean, even now, but back in the day when the purple hair and the green hair was very odd, and you walk into a Mac store and that's all they hired.
Oh yeah.
You're like, did the circus come into town? Like, what the heck is going on here? And what he was doing is hiring artists.
Yeah.
And that's what we have. Our blue collar workers are our artists. In all honesty, they use a different side of the brain than we do. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you right now, my metal guys, I couldn't do what they did. Yeah. There's no way. That's not my wheelhouse. You know. Art, music. And we talked about your son going in the drums and piano and stuff. Amazing. I don't got the chip for it. Yeah. And I recognize that. And I'm like, you guys are awesome all on yourselves because I can't do this.
Well, I mean, it's a great industry because you are going to have those cowboys that are still on the trucks. Mm-hmm. They are still cut from the same cloth that my father-in-law was cut from.
Yep.
Different part of that cloth. You know, you can't talk to them that people used to be talked to, which is fantastic, because these guys are skilled trades. They should be treated with respect in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have the guys in the shop that are building these beautiful signs that are decorating the cities and the states all over. True artists. Then you have the people in the office that have to deal with those two departments and then the customers at the same time. You know, it is a fantastic blend. And that's where I think this sign industry is very special.
Yeah.
Very special place to be a part of.
It's super funny. The more you and I talk about it, the more you recognize our joke in the sign company is once you are in the sign company, you either last 10 days or 10 years.
Yeah.
And if you last more than 10 days, you're never getting out of this industry. You can't walk away from it. It is the mafia. You can't leave. Yeah. And it's true. It really is. And I think it's because of what we just talked about. It's that blend at the blue collar wild where you get a little piece of everything. You don't get one shoved down your throat all day, every day, or the other side.
Yeah.
You know, I worked in a white collar environment where you had to have a certain type of attire, sit at your cubicle, clock in at 8, clock out at 5. We were lemmings. It was brutal. Yeah. I wanted nothing to do with that world. That was 3 months and I ran screaming. I hated it.
Yeah. It's it's a fun place to be. Now, I mean, granted, if we all worked at a different company, we'd all probably be fired by now, I'm sure, for the things that we say and the things that we do. But 100%. That is why we are where we are. And it just keeps it interesting, man. And that's where we got to keep pushing the sign industry, because you get to do some incredible stuff. There's very few industries out there where you can drive by and point to something and say, I did that. Our company did that. Most of the time, especially in a white collar job, you do all the work and it just goes into the ether. It's just gone. And at the end of the day, you're like, I did something.
So
what did I do?
I have to admit this, and this is I'm kind of getting a monkey off my chest here. I've had for a while. So for Square Co, for the first 8 years, I was just employee number one, right? It was just me. Because we every single time we bring a server on, it was like a month's worth of work. And then bring a new company, it was about a month's worth of work. And then after that, they would disappear. Yeah. So I didn't need a lot of employees. Well, then I started training people on site. So I was flying around a lot. And every single sign owner would drive me around town. We did that sign. We did that sign. We did that sign. And after like the 5th one, I'm like, yeah, another fucking sign. Yeah, it's great. and now there are like 5 more. I went, you know what? This is our pride. I get it now. So now when I show up, I'm like, what sign did you do? And I will prompt the question. Of course, they light up like the 4th of July. They're like, oh, we did that one. We did that one. And it's so cool just to see the pride in it. It really is. You really do see people take a ton of pride in the way they work. Or it's a lot of anger because you drove by something. You're like, I bid on that job. Yes, I should have won that job. I created that sign. I bid on that sign. We did 3 revisions of that sign. You bought it from somebody else.
I mean, my wife is used to it now. If my head whips around, I'm either looking at service, or if I'm mumbling something to myself after I saw a sign, it probably wasn't a good situation. Or I drove by like, we did that. And now my son shows up to a ton of our jobs, and we have cranes out there, loves the crane trucks. Every day when I get home now, ask me, what sign did you build? So it's awesome. It's a cool thing because I can go drive around now and point to something. And that's where it's such a beautiful industry, and it needs to be promoted. And what our people are doing, we are helping build cities. We are helping build states. Yeah. But it's more than the buildings there. We are making them unique. Mm-hmm. And we are adding that little bit extra that makes them special. And I mean, this industry is fantastic.
It is. It really is. It's the cake topper.
Yeah.
We can make or break a cake off of what we do. It really is. And it's so neat. Okay. Shifting it up here. Leadership, ownership. Where are you driving your company to? So you basically, sky's the limit. You want to go battle Yesco in the next 5 years. You want to be that big. Like, bring it on, man. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. What are the next steps as you as a leader that you're going to be now looking towards to get to that next point?
I think the biggest thing is going to be taking a little off my plate, hiring more people, passing out a few of the responsibilities that I have, creating new positions, bringing on more project coordinators, whether they're local or national, putting in a supervisor in that role, taking a little bit more off my plate, pushing the estimating onto them. We've been buying trucks. We've been adding fabrication guys, like I said, and we've been operating out of 3,000 square foot space.
Insane.
My guys are gangsters. They're building 50-foot pylon signs in 3,000 square foot. Give them more space. The sky's the limit with them. We've been buying trucks, adding people, but our next big step is buying a building. And that's where we're looking at trying to buy some land, possibly build, or buy an already pre-established building. But in 3,000 square foot, we're working off of 200-300 projects at once, split between fabrication and installation. And what my guys are able to do is incredible. I'm extremely fortunate for them, but it's getting us the proper building to continue this growth. We need 15, we need 20, we need 30,000 square foot because that's the work we're doing. And somehow we're doing it out of 3,000 square foot. It wasn't needed 5 years ago. We had one fab guy and 7 jobs at once.
Yeah.
Now we have 200 to 300. And so continuing to push fabrication, continuing to push installation, and our project management is top notch. And so the building is the next big thing. We're going to keep buying trucks between now and then. None of that's going to be possible though, unless we keep doing what we're doing and we keep hiring good people. And so that's where it takes us a little bit longer sometimes to hire. We have to vet out some people. Some people don't last, but the ones that last are here for a long time, and I'm fortunate enough to work with them. But getting that building is that next big step for us.
That's going to be big. It's going to be huge. And we walked integrated signs, and I talked to you about our Henry Ford assembly line and trying to do that. And I know you're already doing it and how you're setting that up, and just the makeup and the layout of the building is going to make or break it.
Yeah.
Like it blows my mind how many times I see something and you get the Winchester house where they go, oh, we built this here. And we built that over here and we built it over here. And next thing you know, none of it makes sense. And you have to literally almost remove every piece of equipment out of your shop and rebuild it. And people are like, well, that's $50,000. I'm like, or you flush $20,000 every month from inefficiency. Which way do you want to go?
Exactly. I mean, getting that shop dialed in, because fabrication is still relatively new to us. We were doing it for the first 20 some odd years, but not at this capacity and this scale. So we've purchased machines where we've had to build rooms in our little space. We've had to move things around. I mean, our shop has probably gone through constant flux ever since I took over the past 5 years, because the capacity continues to grow. We keep adding people into the shop, but getting that situated where we have now is close to as good as it's going to get with the limited space that we have. But as I told you earlier, we need to perfect that, because if we're going to take on a 15, 20,000 square foot building, we need to master 3,000 square foot, because then all we have to do is extrapolate from there and just expand on it into the new area. I don't want to walk into that kind of space and then say, okay, let's try to figure this out now. No, we were already doing it in a limited capacity. So all we got to do is just make it a little bit bigger now. And getting that dialed in is our biggest thing for us to continue fabrication, because now we have a true track record. We have a true history. I mean, my fabrication team has, we've only been applying to awards, whether it's CSA or ISA or Daktronics, for 2 years, and we have 12 awards and a half dozen cover pages and centerfolds and magazines. I mean, it's stuff that's
awesome.
We thought we could do, but seeing it come to fruition is incredible for our guys, because they're getting the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah.
And then our install guys are getting it put up, and our project managers are running that job start to finish. I mean, it is a true team effort, but the recognition is incredible for them to have. And so it's getting them the facility that they deserve to be proud of a company to work for.
I love it. Do you ever read the book, The Servant Leader?
No.
So it's exactly what you're talking about. You take the leader, the top of the pyramid, and you flip it upside down.
Yeah.
And he's the number one servant. What do you guys need to be successful? And that's the whole premise of the book. Yeah. And it's just what you're talking about. And it's a great book. And then the other book that I really liked, that I just finished reading last year, was Who Not What. And it's not what do I need to do? Who do I need to hire to do that?
Yeah.
And if you're going to grow, the biggest thing that leaders struggle with, and I talked about it 2 podcasts ago, or last podcast, do you want to be king or do you want to be rich? If you want to be king, keep the what. And what am I going to do next? Because everybody has to come to you. If you want to be rich, it's got to be who are you going to put in place to do this? Who are you going to put in place to because you can't shoulder you.
Yeah.
You're already full. You're tippy top.
Yeah.
and I know the OCD were like, we can add one more brick.
Yeah. I mean,
we can add one more brick.
It's a struggle with my wife. How much?
Yeah.
How much more are you going to take on? And that's a constant conversation, because I think I could always do more, but it is passing that on, like you're saying, and trusting people to want it as much as you want it.
Somebody asked me this, I want to say about a decade ago, and they said, when is enough enough? And the person who asked me was not a driven individual. And so they could understand the drive that I had behind this. And you have the same drive that I do. And in fact, I think you've got a little bit more than I do. And honestly, because at 36, I was starting to pull back the thrusters a little bit. You're like pedal to the metal. So I love it. I'm feeding off of you right now. I'm like, what else can I do now? I'm getting excited just talking to you. But the question is, when is enough enough? Because we don't want to die on our deathbed working the day we die.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. That's not a fun life.
Yeah.
But I do think that you can develop your entire life and have fun at it if it doesn't burn you out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the answer I've come to in my life, because at some point in time, they're always asking me, what's a dollar amount?
Yeah.
How much money do you have in the bank to where you're done?
Yeah.
Is that a finish line? And I'm like, I kind of enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
What's your take on all that?
I love what I do. I mean, I always knew I was supposed to lead. I didn't know the industry. I got extremely fortunate to be presented an opportunity to come into this industry from my father.
Okay.
But I knew what I was supposed to do was lead. And I think that that is just, I love being around the people, and I love leading people, helping them out, helping them be better. I don't know if it will ever be enough. There is no dollar amount attached to it. There is no size attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
I love coming to work, and I love what I do. I want this thing to continue to grow and get bigger and bigger, but there is no true end game at the end. And the more I take on, the more I get even more involved in this industry. And I love to see this whole other side of it, from the CSA and the ISA and the Western States Sign Council. I love seeing that whole part of it. So it's just continuing to motivate me. If there ever comes a point where I say that we have made it and this is enough, then I should step away, because my company, my people deserve someone who's going to continue to stay motivated like I currently am right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that day will ever come. You talk to my wife. I don't know if I'll ever start working, because I just love being busy and I love working. But I take so much pride in the industry that we're in and the company that we're running right now. I just want to see it continue to grow. And I don't know if that motivation will ever stop. I just want to do more because I know I can do more, but I love the challenge. I love the challenge of taking on something new, taking on a new role, whether association that it's with. I want to do more, and I will leave my mark on this industry.
Mm-hmm. I think you already have, to be honest with you. So you threw out a whole bunch of initials out there. It looked like an art chart for a second. So we had Colorado Sign Association.
Yeah.
We had Western States Sign Council.
Yep.
And then you had International Sign Association.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are three, I'm going to call them charities, because you're doing the work for free.
Yeah.
It's not like they're paying you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you have three charities that you're working with right now to make this industry better. I thoroughly believe you give what you get. What have you gotten out of all that?
I mean, from something as from the ISA Elite, you know, there was 35 people in there. I was fortunate enough to be a part of that group, and I've made not just great connections, but fantastic friends. I mean, we've known each other for a little bit over a year and a half, and it feels like I've known these people for decades. Extremely close. We talk weekly. The knowledge that I've gained from them and the motivation that I've gained from them. I mean, if you think you're doing great, there are half dozen other people in that group where you're like, oh, I got to do more. I got to do more. And there are people at other levels, you know, that have larger companies, that have grown family run companies, that have set a nice template for me to follow or to at least pull something from. At this Colorado Sign Association level, I walked into this with the same mentality that my father-in-law had. He was a cowboy and did it on his own. I mean, what he did is incredible. He is exactly what the company needed to get started, did it all on his own. But what I found with the Colorado Sign Association was good companies are out there that you can work with. And I think that that's a bad notion that's in the sign industry at times, is that I don't want to share anything. I don't want to be a part of another company or an association. I'm on my own. And you're really not. Yeah. We all run into the same problems, especially the owners. You have the same issues, whether it's customers or projects or people, and just having someone to talk to. And how did you handle this situation? Where are you going? And then if it comes to something like permitting, like, hey, I'm running into an issue in Longmont or Colorado Springs. Can you help me out? Yeah, I'd be happy to help you out. We all can grow as a company and get better while still competing at the same time. I try to equate it to just like the SEC, right? In football, right? We're going to compete against each other in the SEC, but then when it's the SEC versus everyone else, well, it's us versus everyone else. And I take a lot of pride in our state versus everyone else, because I think we're doing incredible things out here. So it's the knowledge is one of the biggest things that I've gained from the ISA and the CSA and the Western State Sign Council of what has worked, what has failed, how can we get better as a company, but how can we get better as an industry? And being a part of that is something I'm really excited to do.
You know, it's funny that I walked away from CISA, the California Electric Sign Association. I walked away from them 8 years ago. And I'm like, there's nothing going on here. There's no life. There's no pushing to this. Talking to you, I'm like, I better pick up that phone and say hi. Like, you're motivating me right now to plug it back in and see what's going on. This is awesome, man. This is awesome. I know you and me are going to have so many more conversations on the golf course.
I think so.
There's going to be so much. We should just bring a microphone because there's so many good things to be had. Growing your company, getting that land, maybe even putting a building on and stuff. Those are just huge momental tasks that, sign companies didn't do. I mean, my dad ran integrated signs for over 20 years and he was never able to make that leap. To make that leap takes a little bit of crazy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of balls. And it takes some financial creativity. And throughout all of that, you're going to make that leap. But once you do, the other side's just not nearly as scary. I mean, you listen to me just buying square coil. This is a 6,000 square foot building. And for the most part, we were just putting up drywall and studs. And that thing snowballed on me so fast. The next thing I know, I had this massive project on my hands. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was. But here we are. We're done. It's not so bad.
It's incredible too.
We're still living.
Incredible.
No one's dead.
Yeah. You're still here.
We're still here.
Thriving.
So no, it came out great. It came out really, really good. And it's just not as scary as one makes it out to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all great things come from being scared at times. And it's just the unknown. But that's okay. But there's no reason about getting worried about something that hasn't even happened yet. You can be concerned about that down the road. Now, I mean, I've run through a million scenarios, just like the conversations too, but it's still the unknown.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know unless you try.
Yep.
And we're going to go down this road, whether it's buying a building or buying this land and building and continue to grow this thing. And there will be bumps along the way. I know that. I accept that. It's just like when we brought on Square Coil, right? You guys came out on a Monday. By Friday, we were done training. That following Monday, we were 100% paperless. And it was either, well, let's wait a year till all those projects are kind of rolled through, new ones come through, they'll go on Square Coil, or we just deal with the headaches right now. Couple months of headaches, figuring it all out.
Yep.
And then we're golden from there. And that's where, if you know there's going to be headaches and you accept that with anything that you do, it's all good. We'll figure it out. Just like our jobs. We finish every job that we start. We'll figure it out along the way. And that's the only way we're going to learn to grow.
It's funny when we present, people go, okay, what does this look like? And we walk them through and I said, you're going to have growth pains for the next 2 months. And they go, well, you didn't explain this to me when they're in the middle of it. I'm like, well, what do you think I meant by growth pain?
Yeah.
This is something new and it's not second nature. It's so funny. I've been very boisterous about this. It's so much fun. I'm learning how to fly right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And yesterday we flew for 3 hours and all I did was circles at Gillespie Field. That's all I did. And the radio's telling me something to do. I'm trying to climb up at 80 miles an hour to right bank. I'm trying not to hit the plane to the right of me.
Yeah.
The radio comes back on and says, you're number 2 in the pattern. I got to find number 1 in the pattern. Meanwhile, I'm at 1100. Oh, I got to throttle down. I got to lean out the mixture because it's an old carburetor. It's a 59 plane.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, the radio's like, you're number 1. And I'm like, number 2 already landed. Oh, I got to land now. And there was so much coming at me. I would, by the time I got out of the plane, I was like, just give me a second. Holy crap. That was a lot of information coming at me. And the radio, I'm still the worst at. The radio I suck at because it's a new language. I'm learning a whole new language up there on top of flying a plane.
Yeah, that's a ton.
And so now when I go into this and the new people come in, they say, well, we're trying, we're doing good. I said, I get it. Yeah. We make it look easy because we've been doing this for a long period of time, but it's really not easy what we do.
Yeah.
It's fun, but love the industry, love the conversation. Thank you so much for coming down
I appreciate
and being on this. And for us listeners, growth is inevitable. It's something you got to do. If you're the same, you are still losing because everybody else is still going up. So if you compare you to anybody else, you are starting to go downhill. So you have to evolve. You have to change. Those are a couple of things that is inevitable in life and in business. So kind of learn from what Louis and I were just talking about and don't be afraid. Take a step forward. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to get in associations because this industry has so much to give. You're going to find more nice people. You're going to find mean people. Talk to you guys next week.